I can't believe I have to do part 3 of this, dude. How's it going? Probably mostly be lurking and listening today. That's fine. Leave shortly for 8 hours of work. Oh god. Yeah, the VOD will, you know, be on the channel. I haven't uploaded part 2 to the actual YouTube yet, but I mean it's up on Twitch still. I can't fucking believe I have to do part 3 of this. I really don't want to. We're not doing a part 4. Like, we're getting it done today. We're getting everything done today. Yeah, we're doing how to write a God Game card part 3. With today's focus being on individual card mechanics. So things that aren't like statuses, counters, card types, like individual stuff. Oh, and keywords too, I went over those last time. Yeah, it's basically just everything else. Now, I'm hoping that means it won't take as long because everything else has already been covered. Because those are the meaty stuff. Everything else is mostly not minor necessarily, but less hopefully just like less of an ordeal, you know. Excuse me. So with that said, I'm rox300. I'm a variety streamer, I'm a card game developer. If you're interested in seeing more God Game stuff, then I have a Discord where I post God Game cards every day. Or at least I try to. I post 1-4 every day, at least if I don't post them every day. You can, and if you want to support the channel in any way, you're more than welcome to do so. You can donate bits, and I do have a couple of special bit alerts to go over the stream. You can subscribe and get a bunch of awesome emotes, and you can tip directly, which is probably the best way to support the channel. Actually, you can also actually do my throne, because I do have my throne set up with like a Twitch alert. Now, you can also request for me to put stuff on there. I don't know how to check that fully, but you can do that. And I think that's really everything. Just, you know, pay mind to the rules, which are listed below the stream. You know, and especially this one is important for this stream. Don't, like, backseat me. Like, we're talking about my card game, you know? I know, like, the only people who are allowed to backseat me are, like, my mods and, like... Well, I was gonna say my mods and like, Sox and Fi, because they're developers, but I think every single mod... Every single developer is a mod, apart from, like, Tyler. So, like, don't backseat develop me. Like, I know what I know what I'm doing, you know? We know what we're doing. We'll figure it out if we don't... If we don't, like, fully know something, or something's a little bit unbalanced. And with that, I kind of really just want to get straight into it, because it's another... it's going to be another long stream, I think. So I'm just going to kind of, you know, go in. So I'm actually not going to immediately open Photoshop, I'm actually going to switch to Firefox. Because I'm going to be going over mechanics that aren't, like, fully listed on... Sorry, not that aren't listed, but mechanics that aren't, like, keywords and statuses and counters and such, so being able to read the effect off from the player's guide and then switching back to Photoshop to give examples of cards that use them is probably going to be easier with this stuff, you know? So I'm going to switch to Photoshop now. Let me get some music playing. Wait, did I say Photoshop? I meant Firefox. Let me get some music playing too. And shuffle. You can't hear it. There we go. Stacking and orbiting and pocketing. Well, I'm not going to be talking about stacking and orbiting straight away, because those aren't on this document, but I will be talking about them. I'm just going to have to, like, harass Pyra until she shows up, and get her in call to explain orbiting, and then, you know, kick her from a call, because but it's fine. So yeah, let me, you know, go through the submission guide. I'll, you know, go past all the FAQ stuff. I don't need that though. Turn start structure. I don't think I need to look at all this stuff. Card types. Okay, so yeah, so terms and mechanics. Now, there were some ones that were requested after last week's stream, which I did also note down, so I will be, you know, taking a look and going over those, but I think most of them are on the player's guide document anyway. Well, yeah, so... Oh, so here's one I can kind of go over right away. So Jack Derrick asked, what is like the difference between targeting a card and attacking a card? There kind of isn't, really. Targeting is just more encompassing. Like targeting a card would include, for example, an action that, like for example, if a card has, as an action, this may give a card burned. I would probably consider that to be targeting that card. You know, anything like that. Anything that goes off the rules of attacking in that way, I would say is targeting. So I would... So... It's... I think it would be specifically based on that, you know? I think targeting... There's I know stealth, we had a bit of an issue with that last time too. So I know we specifically... Yeah, so this was the thing with stealth. Let me quickly switch to Photoshop real quick and open the stealth status card. So this specifically says cannot be targeted by attacks or consumables. Because that was like an issue we talked about last time. I changed it. Now I'm also realizing it might actually specifically it may actually even more specifically should be can't be targeted by actions or consumables, I feel like. And that shouldn't be too bad to change, but you know, the point is kind of there. I think, yeah, targeting specifically refers to, like, typically just to attacking, but any action that works on the rules of attacking, I would say, also applies to that. So, like, an action that says, like, any card this card could target. You could hit stealth cards with Rob's damage effect. Now, let me look at the Rob card, because this is probably going to be a good example. You're talking about Rob, like... You know, Rob from like, Smash... Like, from Nintendo, right? Like, this card? Yeah, okay, so... The enemy gets home, roll 1d4, deal that much damage to any card in play. Now... Yeah, so that would... I think that would go through, because it doesn't... Stealth doesn't ignore that kind of indirect damage. It only ignores attacks and consumables. Yeah, so I think that would be fine, yeah. I think that makes sense. So I kind of do like it as specifically attacks, too, and not like actions. So I think I might leave it as that. Now, something else that was asked about. So this is another one that I can do in Photoshop, so I'm gonna leave this. Adam Rice asked, when and where to capitalize mechanics and keywords. Now that's is something like battle cry deal more damage to any card. Yeah, I would say that could hit a stealth card. I would say so. So let me open up the basic card template, and I will go over some of the. So obviously, any keyword when it's mentioned at any time should always be capitalized. So like, you know, like at the end of a turn, the turn doesn't have to be capitalized. At the end of a turn, trigger this card's battle cry. So battle cry would always be capitalized, you know, because it's like it's a keyword. Keywords are always capitalized like that. Slot versus, I think like, so when this attacks, deal its damage to a card in an adjacent slot as well. I think I would also say that slot would be lowercase, because it's not like a. I don't know what the wording is for what I mean with these terms, but it's not. That's one that it doesn't really like. That one should probably just be lowercase. But specifically though, I think field slot should be capitalized. And then, if you're doing anything with field effects, though obviously keep in mind that those are getting reworked a bit, as Socks mentioned, you would probably want to do effects slot like this. Excuse me. Rather than specifically field effect slot. Though, again, you probably want to hold off on doing stuff with those until we fully figured out what we're doing, and mention to you guys. Now, with stuff like, so, when this card attacks, I usually like to go for, but you can do, like, attack. I think lowercase is on a lot of cards, like when this card attacks. The counterattacks is always kind of formatted like the same, so when this card counterattacks, it's lowercase with no space or dash or anything. It's just one word. All statuses should usually be referred to with you know, proper titling. So like, give this card speed, you know, or give this card taunt. That's always sort of it's sort of displayed on the status itself how you should format it, you know. So it's like this. You know, give this card sick fires. And that one is always capitalized, because that's how it's formatted on the actual thing. Yeah, that's something that's not too bad for consistency reasons. Now, yeah, so like I think I mentioned this on the first stream too. Like, so like gain 1 coin versus flip a coin. Coin, the currency is always going to be this isn't some cards in Delta, and some, I think a couple might have slipped through in like Alpha as well, will still have the lowercase for coins, because we hadn't quite fully hashed out the consistent terminology yet, but we've been trying to be consistent about that ever since. Now, yeah, so coin is capital C. A coin that you flip rather than currency is lowercase c. And I think also, like for coin, if heads, I would put heads and tails, like, you know, as lowercase, not capitalized. any other sort of game mechanic should probably be capitalized properly. So like stop time is capitalized like this on any cards that use it. Seconds, which as part of stop time is capitalized like this. That's pretty much true for like any sort of mechanic like that. Obviously, action is pretty much always capitalized. Like, give a card an action. The main one, I think explore should also always be. So like the act of exploring or playing an explore card, and like exhausted, that should also be capitalized. I think that's all pretty, any sort of mechanical thing like that should probably be capitalized, like upgrade, transform. We try and always have those like that, I hope that makes sense at least. Now let me quickly go back over to Firefox and take a look at some stuff again. So there was an explanation wanted on upgrades and transforming. Now that one's pretty good. That one's pretty, pretty sort of intuitive in my opinion. Once you kind of know, this is pretty long, but like this can be shortened a lot. I'll probably go back and do that because it's pretty similar to upgrades. So a card that upgrade. So as written in the player's guidebook, an upgrade is an effect that upgrades a card into a new one. You can find upgraded card variants in the special deck, or in Goku's case, they're actually in the utility bag. Upgrades keep any changes to the base card, any damage the original card took, any attachments, statuses, or counters they have, and any stat changes over to the new card. So the main thing about an upgrade is that while it is the same card, it's also it's an upgrade. It's a direct upgrade, So when you're writing a card that uses upgrades, you can make the new one just better than the original. There's no real like as long as you're being reasonable with the balancing, and obviously with upgrades, especially depending on the condition to the upgrade, because upgraded cards usually should have some sort of condition to upgrade to them. You can afford to be a lot more kind of like you can be a bit sillier. I guess is the maybe not. I'm not sure what the word is. Like you can kind of make things a little bit more powerful when making a card that has upgraded, because of the fact that you can't just play it as is. You do need to go through some sort of condition to upgrade it. So I'm gonna again switch back over to Photoshop. I might actually. Is there a way? Can I mute the stinger transition? Because it's gonna play the sound every single time, and I'm usually fine with that, but I'm doing a lot of switching today. Monitor only, mute output. Does that work? I don't know. Oh, I guess it doesn't really matter. But anyway, I'm gonna go back to Photoshop. Upgraded cards. Sorry, cards that use upgrade and cards that have upgraded. So yeah, I am actually going to show off Goku as an example. Let me close this, and I'll open a couple others as well. Now I'm not sure how many there are. Oh, it's the Supersonic. I'm not sure how many others there are in across base set usually. Oh, I think Bart actually upgrades to Bartman. And Shadow actually upgrades to Hero and Dark Shadow. Though those ones, I've already opened a Sonic character. So let me quickly see if there's any in Dark Beyond. No, but there is actually pretty good examples for Transform in Dark Beyond. Oh, actually, no, there's Riolu. Yeah, so all of these cards use the upgrade mechanic. They all, start off at different levels. Because it obviously depends on what you're upgrading to and the card that's initially starting off. So this is a basic card, for example. Now it's only a basic card and it only has 1 HP 2 damage, so it doesn't start off. Obviously, it's pretty weak. And the condition for upgrading it is tied behind a burst, so you can obviously only do it once. Well, I mean, that makes sense, but you know what I mean. So, let me open up Lucario to show you guys that card. Now, Lucario isn't that much stronger than Riolu because it's not too hard to pull off. Because it works on charge and cards on your field taking damage. Now, this one has another upgrade to Mega Lucario, which is a lot more... It's a bit more difficult to pull off because you need to be... You need to be, like, below... You're, like, close to dying at this point, you know? You're pretty much kind of losing. So Mega Lucario is very strong, you know? A very strong champion card. So yeah, it's just kind of... You want to kind of be aware of what you're upgrading to figure out the condition, or vice versa, for example. Like, if you want to figure out the condition first, and then decide how good the upgrade's going to be from that, you know? That's the kind of thing you want to be doing. So, like, Bot, you know, at the end of the chapter, if this took 0 damage, it upgrades to Batman. Now, it's pretty easy to cheat that one out by playing it if you're God on the last turn of the chapter. and that's fun. That's sort of by design. It's not, like, quite intentional, but it's, like, something we've kind of figured out and let slip. You know, we let that happen. But the intent, obviously, is that this card isn't going to have a super easy time because it needs to not take any damage while also having taunt. You know? So, Batman is just a very strong, very strong card. But yeah, so the intent is that it's not super easy. There is a way to cheat it, but that's fine. Now, Supersonic, I believe, has shown up once or twice on stream already. I mean, it did in my games, at least, and you've seen the upgrade of it. So, this one is tied behind a Showstopper, so you have to give up your whole turn to upgrade this card. And to play this card in the first place, you also need to discard a champion that's on your field. So, the upgrade of this card is it's a very powerful card because of that, you know? So, Supersonic upgrades into Starfall Supersonic, which is this. I actually still gave it a downside because I felt like I should, even though you have to go through all that stuff to get it in the first place. I still gave it a downside. But yeah, like, this one's just very good. And then Goku, obviously. If this kills a card, it upgrades into, you know, his different forms, like Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2, and then each one has, like, more restrictions to it. Super Saiyan 3. I'm not going to show any of the other ones because, you know, just see them in game yourself when this happens. Oh, and you can actually, I guess this is a good time to talk. You can do split upgrade paths if anything would warrant that, for example. So this card, this Goku, like Super Saiyan 3 Goku, it splits off into either Super Saiyan God or Golden Great Ape, which obviously are both different forms from different iterations of Dragon Ball. So if you have a good reason to, you can split off upgrades like that. You know, they don't all have. It doesn't have to be completely linear. It can be linear but like split. You know. Now, yeah, writing a card with an upgrade. Question about the original. If the original is more upgrade is more HP, healed by the difference was the same on missing HP. Yes, that's exactly how I would rule it. That's exactly how it's intended to work. I think like that's how I would do it like that. From how I wrote it, like it says on the document. It does say, yeah, any damage the original card took. So if like I guess I can use these cards. I'll show off another. So this card, Pig, can upgrade into different, you know, forms of pig. So yeah, so Dr. Pig has more health than Pig. So if Pig had taken 2 damage and was at 1 HP, if you did upgrade Pig by getting 3 shield on it, then this card would have 6 HP remaining once it upgrades. It wouldn't be at full, because healing it fully just means you can kind of negate any sort of progress on the card at all. It kind of, I think it makes a lot more sense because it's the same card. It's just an upgraded version of that card, that it would not that it would retain anything that happens to it. That's why it retains. Can a card upgrade from a basic card into a champion and take over the slot? So if a card upgrade, it is a basic card. So let me again use Riolu as an example. Well, I'll use Lucario and Mega Lucario as an example again, because those do that. So Lucario is a skilled card, Mega Lucario is a champion card, but you don't need to move Mega Lucario to the champion slot because it's just upgrading the card that's already in the skilled slot. You don't need to move. I know there are a couple of upgrade cards that do say you do need an open slot, champion slot, and I don't remember which ones those are, but I know for a fact that they exist. There are a couple like skilled and basics that upgrade to champions that say you do need an open champion slot. I'm not sure, again, I'm not quite sure which ones those are. I don't remember off the top of my head. If anyone does, I'll show them, but if it were to move, would it only be able to move into the champion slot? No, because it's not in the champion slot. Because cards can either move into the champion slot. Sorry, no, cards either can't move into the champion slot or they can't move out of it, you know? It doesn't matter what their card type is. It's just whether they're in the slot. That's basically how it's intended. Now, transform is the other half of this explanation that people wanted. Is pretty similar to upgrade. Eddie's brother. Yeah, let me. Yeah, so so Eddie's brother summons any 3 basic cards and amalgamates them and summons them into the champion slot specifically. So yeah, they wouldn't be able to move out of the champion slot because they're in, you know, you can't move out of the champion slot unless something specifically says otherwise. Now, yes, so transform. Transform is pretty similar to upgrade. It's not the same, and that's because transform is less like an upgrade to a card. It's more like multiple states of one card. So when a card transforms, the idea is that you would be able to transform it back, you know? Like, you don't... Like, you might want to keep it as the other form forever, but you don't... Like, you don't necessarily... You don't necessarily want to, you know? You want to either have the option, or, like, just by design it will transform back. So, I'm gonna open up a couple examples of transforming cards. So I know this one does. And special cards. There we go. Yeah, so this one transforms into the other Sonic. And this always happens at the end of the... Sorry, at the beginning of the chapter. Like, you don't get a choice about that. You have to transform this card. The main thing to know with the transformations is that generally they'll have like similar stats and do something like there's usually a condition for a card to transform and usually one for a card to transform back as well. And you know, obviously these ones, it's like I said, it's the start of the chapter. There's Palafin, which transforms via a burst actually, so it's pretty unique on that regard, because this one is sort of intended that you only really want to be transforming it once. So you know, burst, if this card attack this turn, return it to your hand, then transform it to Palafin Hero. Now this is sort of the same as upgrade, where if it has missing HP, when it transforms, it will you know, it'll have the same missing HP. So if this transformed at 1 HP, then this would have 7 HP, you know? And actually, if it... Now, the death rattle only really matters when it dies, obviously. There are certain effects that can make things transform through other means, or I guess could trigger the death rattle through other means, like the Dead Ringer. So in that case, you would lower this card's HP, and if it had taken... Actually, if it had taken more than 2 damage, so this card would die. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't die. That's what I'm saying. So I've actually talked about this before. If a card would transform to a form with lower HP than it had in its previous form, and it would die as a result, it would be left at 1 HP. Is how that works. Because otherwise it'd be kind of stupid, you know, cards would just die for no reason. Like, it'd be kind of stupid. That shouldn't be how that works. So, yeah, transforms, you know, should pretty typically be, most of the time, be of a similar caliber to what they're transforming from. You shouldn't really be... Most of the time, you shouldn't really be making things that transform into something like objectively better. So again, like these Sonic cards are a pretty good example, because these are both champions obviously, and they both do something very similar. I believe there's a couple other things too. Let me look. I know there's definitely other transforming cards. It's a little bit rare right now because we haven't really done too much with it just yet, but there are other ones. There's Launch from Dragon Ball, actually. Yeah, so at the end of the turn, transform this into bad Launch. That's a good Launch. And then there's also, I believe, Fukawa and Genocide Syo. Yeah, so this one transforms via... This one only transforms when a card adjacent to it dies, and then this one only transforms at the end of your turn, roll 1d4, and it's a 4. So you can kind of get a little silly with transformation and upgrade requirements. You know, like you don't just make it something that makes sense and make it something that's sort of balanced for the card and for the upgrade, like for the upgrade or transformation. So that's basically the main differences between those two. You know, you just obviously transformations shouldn't usually be much better than upgrades. Unless there's like a very good reason for it, like the Palafin cards. And upgrades should usually be better than the base ones. Unless there's a good reason for it. So... let me see what else was asked about last time. Hold on. I'm losing where I'm at. Never mind. Okay. Both transformations and upgrades deserve to die. You upgrades for sure do. Like you would typically always transform a card. Like you would typically always discard the all cards, including the upgrade. I think you would discard. You would probably only discard one of the transformations. I think at least, just because... I mean, maybe you would discard both, I don't know, but like... It's supposed to just be one card, you know, so... I think mostly they would persist, so a card would stay in the state it was in when it died, probably. Unless it would say otherwise. Like, again, the Palafin card, which does specifically say that it transforms back into Palafin 0. Let me open that up again. Yes, this one specifically says it transforms back. So otherwise, they wouldn't, typically. Alright, so let me switch back to Flex. Now, I'm going to go over, very quickly and briefly going to talk about Summon. The act of summoning a card. I'm not going to switch back to Photoshop for that because it's kind of, like, not really super necessary. Hey, is my chat, like, unreadable on the stream, by the way, or is that just... Is that just... It's legible. Okay. A little bit. Kind of. Let me... Hold on. Let me darken the chat window again. It usually isn't a problem, but I'm on a white background right now, so it, kind of is. Excuse me. Overlays, chat. Wait, what's... It says the opacity is 100%, but that can't be right, because... Because it's not, it's like grey. It's like not 100% opacity. You know? Oh, I see. I can change change the opacity of it a little bit here. Okay, well, all the messages disappeared, but I think that should be a bit better. My bad. Oh, that's way better, I think. That's way better. Okay, yeah. So... so yeah, I'm gonna go over summoning. So obviously this is what it says in the guidebook. This is how cards are played. When you play a character from your hand into the field, you're summoning it. When a card states to summon another character, treat that card as if it was played from your hand. So if a card, well, I mean it says it here, but like if a card says, you know, summon one kill house, like the mill house card says that, I believe, exactly. Kill house would then be played as if it was being played from your hand, so it would be exhausted. It wouldn't have any like attachments or anything. It'd just be like a new card, basically. If a card says to summon a card and you don't have any room on your field, I believe that's in rulings somewhere. Oh no, never mind. I guess it says character says to play it as soon as it enters your hand, but the field is full. What do you do? Field specify. If it doesn't specify, you should discard something in your field. Yeah, I guess you can play it like that if you want to. Now, yeah, summoning is pretty self-explanatory. I don't really need to go over that too much. Obviously, if you reveal, you know, it's also pretty self-explanatory. When you have to reveal something, you have to show it to the whole table. And make sure everyone has seen it, and then return it to where it came from. So I don't think they would stay revealed most of the time, unless they say so. At least that's usually how I would do it. If a card upgrades into a card with a new battle cry, will it trigger? If a card upgrades into if a card I'm trying to figure out how to word this. We don't really write cards that do stuff like that. But I would say no, because it's not, and the card isn't entering play. Like, battle cries only trigger when the card enters play. So I would say that the battle cry would not trigger. I need to get a drink. Damn. Something unstable wouldn't activate battle cries. I'm not worrying about unstable because I didn't make that. That's like a viewer thing. I'm not worrying about that at all. Hi, Mimo. But yeah, like, I mean, I don't write cards that transform into things with battle cries, or transform into things, well, I guess transform into things with battle cries, or into things with battle cries, just because it feels kind of unintuitive, in my opinion. So there aren't really like any cards that have a battle cry and also have a transform effect. Other question about summoning? When a card says to summon a type of card or a random card that makes from the deck and not your hand. What, like, can you give an example? Do you mean like for example, if a card said like summon the topmost basic card? Summon a random skill card. Yeah, that's obviously going to be from the deck. If anything means something in your hand, it's going to say from your hand. Because, you know, that otherwise it's not going to make any sense. Yeah, just obviously, no, yeah. I definitely appreciate the questions. So, yeah, when you want to make a card that summons stuff, you kind of just want to... a lot of this stuff is really just gonna be like quickly going over stuff and saying like, oh, you know, think about this a little bit and maybe do this. It's not really gonna be too intense like previous stuff because a lot of this is just up to your own judgment in terms of what might make a card good or balanced. Summoning in some way should be limited, in my opinion. You shouldn't be able to just like anything that summons like a lot of things should be like via some sort of condition, like a showstopper or a burst. That you shouldn't just be able to summon a bunch of stuff or upgrade a bunch of stuff or transform stuff. You know what I mean? Like it should be within reason. That's pretty much just par for the course, though. So Mispawling? Well, Mispawling is at the end of the turn. That's only one. It's one at the end of the turn. Like, the limit is that she can only do... It's always at the end of the turn, it's only one. So, yeah. So, VP, I know I really probably don't need to say this, but you shouldn't have that many effects that give VP. You can have them, and they shouldn't, like, they shouldn't even necessarily be, like, super rare. They should just be rare. But, you know, VP is the way it is for a reason, and you know, cards from the victory deck cost as much as they do for a reason. We don't want to like bloat the game with too many VP effects, because VP is like victory cards are very, very good, as has been seen on like many a stream, you know. You know, it's a tough thing to balance, and we've had our own issues with it, I know for a fact. And it's something that, you know, we're working on a bit. And also, VP can be used in place of coins to buy cards in the shop or shop decks at a one-to-one rate. So that, I know I've talked about this before, and I'm gonna say it again. That doesn't mean you can exchange VP for coins. It means you can specifically spend VP in the store as at the same rate as coins. It doesn't, like, that doesn't count as spending coins. That doesn't like get you more coins if you do it, because you're not spending coins, you're spending VP. I know that sounds obvious, but it's something I kind of have to drill in, because it's something that people might get confused on. You're not exchanging them for coins, you're using, it's like you're spending VP still, you know? So it wouldn't trigger any effects that happen when you spend coins. So pocket, people, there are a couple questions about pocketing, and yeah, VP doesn't count as coins. Effects that play around with coin don't. Yeah, they ignore VP because obviously they're not coins. So when a card is pocketed, it is stored by the card that pocketed it. You can't like use that card or play it when it's pocketed. And during your turn you may draw any pocketed cards, though you can't play cards drawn from a pocket on the same turn you draw them. And cards have a pocket limit of 1. Now, this kind of is one of the most underused mechanics in the game, probably because it's pretty tough to work with, and it honestly might need like a little bit of changing at some point. I don't want to promise anything though, because it's not really something that's going to be a priority no matter what, I think. But basically, it means you can store extra cards, you know? So it's good for keeping cards without playing them. You know, if you want to store more than 10 cards, like if you have a 10 card hand already and you want to store some extras, I think it's pretty good for that. Is that a firework? What the hell was that? Fucking 7 PM on like a Friday. Yeah, I think it's something that's pretty underutilized, and I can't really give too much advice for how you should be using it, just because it's very underutilized in Thrill House in the first place. But I think the main use of it is for like excess storage. You know, it's good to have for like if you want to keep extra cards on a card. If you don't want to play them right away, but if you want to keep them around but not take up hand space. Excuse me. Give your cards when you go to the pocket. Well, cards that use pocket typically say so. It has to be on a card that uses it. Yeah, it's like it's a written effect the same way as like deletion, you know, is a written effect. Or stop time is a written effect. It's like it's only on the ones that use it. Speaking of deletion and also discarding while we're here. So cards effects that discard cards like effects that discard cards without damaging them or remove them from play without damaging them should be pretty uncommon. And especially they should probably have some sort of condition for doing so, because removal is just very powerful. Deletion should be even more rare, and maybe even should have some sort of downside for doing so on most cards that use it. You know, you don't like those cards are just gone, you know, from that point. So you kind of really do want to be careful with doing cards that do it. And then I'm not going to be giving any advice on writing cards with Annihilation, because this is a stream for writing cards in accordance with Thrill House Edition. And the official policy on Annihilation is that we're not writing cards that use it anymore. Because it's stupid. And was really oversaturated for a while. I don't. Yoshi's. I don't want to. We can't talk about Yoshi's Cookie right now. That's scary. I actually forgot about that. I know for a fact I forgot about that because it says no card in Thrill House Edition currently uses this effect. It uses this mechanic. Now, I'm sure it's not going to come up. Probably. But either way, you don't. My strong suggestion for writing cards that use Annihilation is don't ever, like, just don't. For those who aren't aware what Annihilation is, and I'm sure most people in the chat already do know, but for anyone who somehow isn't aware of what Annihilation is in God Game, it's essentially just like a more permanent removal where card is completely unplayable in any future games, unless something would remove it from that state. Which obviously is as game-changing and huge as you would think. So that any cards that do have it that would ever be added to Thrill House Edition are going to be something big, and it's only going to be on like probably a single-digit number of cards ever, if even more than like 2 or 3, you know. So my advice is not to write cards that interact with it, because it will very much take away from the sort of gravitas. I don't know how you say that word, but the like sort of importance of it as a threat, and you know, you get what I mean. So that's one of the only things that I will ever say, like, don't ever make cards that use this. like, ever, under any circumstances. You know. So there was also amalgamation. There was a question about amalgamation. So amalgamation, it's pretty much explained here, but I'll read it off anyway. When a card amalgamates with another card or with multiple other cards, place those cards in a single card slot. The amalgamated card is considered to have the combined stats of both cards, any status effects the cards had prior, as well as all written effects on both cards. So like all keyword effects like battle cries, death rattles, etc. All abilities, you know, everything like that. Amalgamations are only done on cards in play, unless stated otherwise. And if more than 2 cards are amalgamated, it's done for all amalgamated cards, like I said. And then if something would check the card type of an amalgamated card, consider it to be all card types involved in the amalgamation. Now that's pretty self-explanatory, I think. You know, it's a card that is a combination of more than one card in some sort of like horrible fusion incident. If you amalgamate something with immune, does it get new statuses? I would say that it. I'm not That's a tough question, because the amalgamate is now one card. I would probably say that the amalgamate does have any statuses of any written statuses of any cards that it had, that it's amalgamating with. I would say that it probably doesn't get any ones that aren't written. Probably. I'm not sure. We're not going to have to worry about immune for a little while, you know, so don't worry too much about that, I guess, but well, I'll properly figure out an immune ruling for that at some point. But yeah, amalgamations are usually very powerful. Do all amalgamated cards get their actions if one already active this turn or is exhausted? So an amalgamated card only has one action because it's one card. I would say, and I will probably actually write this down specifically, if amalgamated cards only have one action typically, as they are one single card. If any card acted and is then amalgamated, the amalgamate cannot act that same turn. So I would say, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say if something acted and then became an amalgamate, it wouldn't be able to act because it already acted. You know, so that I think that makes sense, right? Amalgamation is another effect that's pretty rare. It's only on like, I think it's on like 3 cards in Drill House Edition, maybe 2, honestly. No, wait, I just really remembered that there's one that makes an amalgamate called Sanjay and Craig, and there's one that makes an amalgamate called Ed and Ede. There's a bit more, there's a couple more than that now. But either way, it's usually pretty rare for good reason, because it makes one very powerful card. When you amalgamate 2 cards, which does it go into? Do you choose? What do you... I don't really get the question. Yeah, like 2 cards in play, yeah, but... Oh, which slot does it go into? Oh, I mean, I would say that it could go... I would probably say that it can go in, like, any applicable slot, so... If a champion is amalgamated, it would have to go into the champion slot. And if a basic, you know, if like just basic cards are amalgamated, it could go in like any open slot on any regular slot on your field that's open. You know, just treat it the same as the card types. You can put it in any slot that it would be able to go in. So yeah, you wanna not really add too many amalgamate cards. You can definitely do some silly stuff with it, I think, because it's kind of you know, it's kind of non-champions upgrading champions all these sorts. Yeah, but this isn't upgrading. It's amalgamation. It's not the same. Yeah, it's something you can kind of make stuff of a bit more freely than some other sort of rare mechanics. You know, like there's just you got to be careful with it because amalgamations are typically very powerful, and like you typically get a choice of what you're amalgamating together, so you can make like some pretty beefy and powerful stuff. So you really probably only want to restrict it to like certain like maybe victory cards, or you know, certain rare environments or champions. Excuse me. Like you don't really want it to be on stuff like basic cards, probably. So somebody also did actually ask about stop time, which I will be. That's a fun one to go over, because that's actually, we pretty much defined how that works pretty recently. Now, so when a card creates stop time, it creates a single instance of stop time that varies in length depending on the card. Each increment of stop time is called a second. All cards that can create stopped time are also able to act during stop time. So for example, if an instance of stop time has 2 seconds, each stopped time card in play may act once during each second, in turn order. Then the number of seconds decrements, and once the number of seconds reaches 0, play resumes to normal. So essentially stop time is kind of just extra actions for cards. It's just it's essentially just extra actions for cards, because most of the time you aren't going to have more than one stop time card in play at once, but certain cards can interact with stop time in other sort of interesting ways. We haven't added too much of that yet, but there are some. Let me quickly switch back to Photoshop. Cards that interact with it. So obviously the main ones right now are just the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure characters. So this is sort of the original one, where, you know, Battlecry create 2 seconds of stop time. So essentially when Dio is played, he can get 2 extra actions. Now again, most of the time it's not really going to be super relevant. Once we start adding more stop time cards, it's going to be a lot more, its effects are going to feel a lot more tangible, because for example, Jotaro, if any card creates stopped time, this card may act once during a single second of that stop time. So when Dio enters play, he creates 2 seconds of stop time. If Jotaro was also in play on either the same field as Dio or any other player's field, let's say for example it's another player's field, Dio would be able to act once in the first second of stop time. Then Jotaro's player would be able to decide whether or not he acts during that first second, and let's say in this instance they do, so Jotaro acts during that second of stop time, and then the second of stop time happens, and then Dio can act again, and because Jotaro says it can only act once during a single second, it would not be able to act again. So there is some fun stuff you can definitely do with stop time that isn't encompassed just by actions in this way. You could for example have a card that says something like, when a card acts during stop time, you may draw an explore card. You know, it doesn't have to be limited to just being based on the actions. It can be sort of... Sorry, I was just moving one of my things on my desk and it made a scraping sound. Yeah, it doesn't just have to be restricted to actions. It can sort of be whatever you can come up with for when something happens related to it. Now, it's probably not going to be an overly common effect, you know, which is fine. It shouldn't be like super common, but I think there's definitely like reason for it to exist as a separate mechanic rather than just giving them extra actions, because it's a bit more complicated than that. You know, it feels sort of like the foundations are there for there to be a lot of interesting cards with it. I think that's something. It would be cool. It would be cool to see certain, like, it would be cool to see cards that interact with it in some way more. And I think I'm gonna kind of try and encourage that a little bit. Wait, what do you mean unable to ban user? Okay, Bomber, Nemo, why are you guys here? Can someone fucking ban this? Why can't I ban them? Thank you. I was clicking the ban button and it just said unable to ban user. Like, what do you mean? What did I do? So I'm actually okay. So I'm gonna, and I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite new things that Fi and I worked on for Orb and Soul. And Socks wrote a good number of cards that use it too. Which is extra environments. Now I think this is like one of my favorite things that we've added in a while, and I really do sort of want to push this as like, this is how the game works, you know? Like, this isn't like a house rule. You play the game. This is how the game is played. You know what I mean? Me and Fi especially really want to make this like, this is the rules of how these work. So when a card would call for an extra environment, it comes into play alongside the currently active environment. It doesn't replace it. Extra environments stay in play until something would remove them from play. So, and then a decent amount of time, extra environments will say on the card how they removed from play. Ones that are specifically summoned as extra environments, I mean, like ones that work in that specific manner. But for any card that is summoned as an extra environment without that any sort of explanation, at the start of the chapter, if you are God, you may discard any number of extra environments in play, unless something would dictate otherwise. So, I believe there's the one like card from, what's it called, like Wayside, like the Wayside Teacher. I don't. What is that character called? I don't know what the character is called. I'm trying to find the card that summons extra environments that's a Wayside character. I thought it was like Miss something. But maybe not. Is it a champion? Oh, definitely. Just there's a specific one I'm thinking of. I can't find it anywhere. Does anyone know the name of the wayside teacher? Because I don't. Mrs. Jules. Oh, there it is. Getting extra changing the environment? No, changing the environment. Let me open up Home Alone 2. Wait. What is Home Alone 2? Is Home Alone 2 an what kind of card is that? Environment? Oh wait, do you mean you mean this card? Yeah, it's not called Home Alone 2, my bad. Like that's I thought you were referring to that. Never mind. So no, so that's not the environment changing is like when the active environment leaves play, so like at the end of a chapter or through any other effect that would just replace the environment. Extra environments, yeah, so this one, you know, it plays extra environments. So let me quickly go back to Firefox again. Yeah. So yeah, you can choose to discard any active extra environments at the start of your turn being God. So like at the start of the chapter, if you're God, you can discard any number. You don't have to discard all of them. You don't have to, and you don't like you don't have to discard any if you don't want to, but you can discard like 1 out of 3 extra environments if you just want to get rid of one of them and want to keep the others in play. And then if a card would have you draw more than 3 environments, so there's I know there's a couple of wayside cards again that have you draw extra environments at the start of the chapter. So if you only play 1, like if you draw 5, for example, and play 1, then you split the leftovers evenly, so you would put 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. Do you have to discard the regular environment if you're extra environments? What do you mean? Like generally? Because the environment, the regular environment will always get discarded at the end of the chapter. Unless something would prevent that, you know? That's just how it works. Because that's always going to go away. You don't get to choose whether to keep that in play or not. Yeah, that one always goes away, unless something says otherwise. The rules about God choosing to keep any in play is only for extra environments. But yeah, if yeah, if you would be drawing more than 3 environments at the start of a chapter, you kind of split them evenly among top and bottom of the deck. If you're only playing 1, like if because something would tell you if you can play more than 1, you know. So if you draw 4, you put 1 on the top of the deck, 1 on the bottom, and then you choose whether to put the extra one on the top or the bottom. But yeah, I think extra environments are a good sort of... The Wayside cards are very good examples of them, and there are definitely others in Orb and Soul that use it too. And there's a couple in base set Delta, I believe, as well. Like I said, Phoebe and I really want to push this as like... This is how you play with extra environments. This is how it's supposed to work. Like, this is the... It's not like a house rule. This is how you play the game, you know? Because it's... In my... Like, especially... And this is how 5 typically puts it. It's only adding to the game. If you want to just play as it used to be and just discard all extra environments at the end of the chapter, you can do that. You know? Like, you can just play that way still. Whereas this, like... This, like, adds a lot more strategy to getting them in play, and, you know? I think I really like it personally. I think it's very fun. And I hope, like, you guys get enjoyment out of playing with it this way as well. Like, I definitely, I really recommend it, because this is, like, the intended way to play from now on with these. So I think that's everything I need to go over with extra environments. Now, there was a question about, orbiting and stacking and stuff, but I can't... I'm gonna have to, like, ask Pyro and Tyler to kind of guest star briefly for that, because I don't actually have, like, I could explain it, but it'd be better explained by the people who actually made those. So I'm gonna quickly go through this document and see if there's anything else I can go over for that. Tyro and Pilot? I didn't say that. I did not say that. Okay. Okay. Well, I thought that I did. I thought you were trying to say that I did. So, there was another question about what in-play means and visible, even though it's kind of obvious. I feel like it should be covered. So yeah, I will cover that. So, I actually did have this, written down already. So, a card mentions something about being visible. Mentions something about visible cards or decks. What does that mean? So, a visible card typically means that it is in play, in a shop display, or the topmost card in a discard pile. Cards can become visible through means such as the topmost card of a deck being revealed, or a player's hand being revealed, through a card's effect such as Splinter or Kyusaka Ishimaru. A card is not visible if it's on the table for utility reasons, such as a cards rule sheet or spare copies of any cards that would generate for each drawing. So, like, for example, the card Bullet Bill Launcher lets you get extra bullet bills, and if you just have bullet bills lying around for that, those aren't visible. Those are just, like, there for, you know, for utility reasons. And I would say the same with, like, transformations of cards too. You know, like, because you typically would have the transformation, like, ready and available to kind of transform into. A visible deck is a little bit more specific. This is the basic skills and champion decks, the environment deck, the explore deck, the victory deck, and any gimmick decks in play. And you may optionally also include the special deck and hell deck and hell. I would not usually do that, but that's just me. That's why it says optionally there. And this does not include any deck drawn from a utility bag or any discard piles, because those aren't actual decks. Those are just utility items, like I said about the cards that get drawn too. So, you know, so, like, if you get, for example, like, if Monkey Cage is in play and the card says, like, at the start of the turn, well, it says something like at the start of the turn all players draw one monkey. I wouldn't consider the monkey deck a visible deck. That's just something that they're drawing from. You know, it's not like they're just drawing a monkey. They're not drawing from a deck, you know what I mean? Like, they are, but not, like, in terms of the game. If that makes sense. Now, in play very specifically refers to cards that are active, so cards that are on a field, or so any cards that are in play, any cards that are on a field, so any characters, any attachments, any bosses that are active would be in play. Any environments that are active, including extra environments, are in play. Any active phenomenons are in play, and any active visitors are in play, but only for that turn. Only until, you know, their effect is done. So in play is literally just anything that is currently active and is directly affecting the game in any way, you know? So I would say that flipped cards are not considered to be in play by their own rules. So, and anything that says anything like that, like about cards that are in play, it wouldn't affect flipped cards because of that. And that's pretty much everything about that. I'm gonna quickly message Pyro to see if she wants to explain Orbit real quick. And I should also DM Tyler about... Oh, Tyler's not online. I think Pyro understands stacking pretty well, so I can ask her about that too. Okay, so let me quickly look to see if there's anything else in the channel other than that. Doesn't seem like it. Oh wait, there was one thing for today actually. Kind of difficult to nail down, but might be useful to know or at least discuss. What rules or conventions are okay to bend/break for cards from time to time, and which you definitely prefer people not mess with, besides the obvious stuff in the submission guide? That's a very good question, and it's also one I'm not too sure about answering. Mostly because I feel like a lot of the time that's really a case-by-case basis. So like... So for example, like most of the time, like card design conventions, so basic cards should only have like low stats. They shouldn't have like big... They shouldn't have like big lasting effect, you know? I think it's okay to break that. I didn't mean to switch over to Firefox. I think it's okay to break that sometimes. Same with like the skilled card conventions, same with the champion card conventions, any sort of stat conventions. Those are typically okay to break a lot of the time. I think status conventions, you should pretty much always stick to how the statuses work. You shouldn't be trying to subvert them, especially in the case of things like Steadfast and Oblivious. You really shouldn't like be trying to make things any more complicated than they are. They work that way for a reason. When the Sipton Neg or any other secret units are called from, are they then in play or do they go back in the bag? So anything that is specifically called upon, like the surfbots or the London's cards, those two specific examples, and I don't think any others, and would enter play as a new gimmick deck. The official term for those is a pseudo gimmick deck, because they only enter play when they're called upon, and otherwise, like specifically called upon, and otherwise they're not in play at all. That's you know, that's pretty much how it's supposed to work. And I should probably add an entry for pseudo gimmick decks on here to make things clear. So gimmick decks. I will actually put this in other deck. Pseudo gimmick decks. Certain decks are called upon by specific cards and enter play, i.e. are placed in a gimmick deck slot from then on, only after they're called upon. These are treated as gimmick decks for all gameplay purposes elsewise. Placed. There we go. Pseudo gimmick decks include Surfbot deck and London's cards. London's cards a little bit because the cards that you're drawing from the deck, but I put it into play. Yeah, but I think like the intent either way is that anything that calls upon a pseudo gimmick deck is going to put it into play from that point. At least that's what I assumed. So Pyro is sending me some stuff about orbiting, which I will relate to you guys soon. Orbiting is it's pretty like simple, you know, in terms of essentially a card that is orbiting another card shares a slot with another card. So one card is like the regular card in the slot, and another card is the card that is orbiting that card. When the card that is being orbited would leave play in any way, so like when it dies, you know, if it would be discarded, the card that is orbiting it also dies. So I'm gonna open, Pyro told me a pretty good example card. So yeah, but that doesn't work the other way around. So this card, for example, summons Grodus X's, and I will open that up. Special. Where is special? I don't know where Grodus X's is. Hold on. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so Grodus summons Grodus X to orbit it. So those cards would be sort of, you know, considered to be in the same slot, but like surrounding it. You would obviously only be able to target one card at a time, I believe. Like if you're targeting an orbiting card, you're not also targeting the cards that are orbiting it, and vice versa. But so if this card died, Grodus would not leave play. But if Grodus died, all of these cards would leave play that are orbiting it. You get what I mean? So generally, orbiting is used for like small summons. So like you shouldn't be having like champion cards orbiting like a skill card typically, you know. Usually orbiting effects should be specific effects. So like this card summons these cards. It shouldn't be like, make a card orbit another card. It should be specific. It should be specific cards that use it in specific ways. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? Now, it's supposed to. It's sort of an offensive kind of thing. Like it's an offensive kind of counterpart to stacking, whereas stacking is more defensive. So when I'm gonna read off. So when cards become a stack, the top card acts as the active card until discarded or deleted, and then the card below it immediately enters play as normal, and this continues until you reach the bottom of the stack, and then it's just like a normal card, you know? Battle cries do trigger when a card is revealed via a stack, but any other effects that relate to being like summoned and such don't, because it's not being summoned, it's just, you know, you get what I mean? And then cards that are below the top card don't, like, they're considered, they're basically considered out of play. They don't really do much until they're revealed. They don't do anything until they're revealed. And stacks share attachments. So like the whole stack is so if a card that has an attachment and is in a stack gets discarded, the next card in the stack would inherit that attachment, you know? So that's a lot more defensive than orbiting. And I'm gonna try and find an example of a good stacking card, but like this is all in Carnival and I can't. There's like 20 fucking folders, so I don't know where anything is. I don't know where anything is here. Hi, Osk. Yeah, I'm doing my best to try and find some stacking cards, but I'm figuring it out. Oh, Pyro did also mention a good example card. Actually, hold on. So at the beginning, so this is a taunt card with stack. At the beginning of every turn, draw one rabbit, and then rabbits can be stacked on other rabbits. So you can make stacks of these guys, you know? So because they have taunt, that's a pretty good defensive sort of wall where only one of your taunt cards can be targeted at a time. You get what I mean? So yeah, I think with Orbit you should sort of have it balanced a bit more offensively, and then stacking should be balanced around being a bit more defensive, because that's kind of how they're meant to be played. They're sort of counterparts in a way. And compared to just sharing a slot normally, so I believe the Pikmin do something like that. Yeah, so basic cards with Pikmin is part of the new layout of the same field slot. That just basically means they're in, that it's in the same slot. Like, it just means you have an extra card in play, basically. There's no like big thing though, really. It's just having an extra card in play. Like, you don't target both. You just target one of them. It's just having an extra card in play. I think that's pretty much everything I need to explain about those things. And just, I guess, does anyone have any questions about stacking and orbiting and whatnot? Pyro is available to answer some questions, but not on call. She's like a little busy, so. Hey, you know what? You know what I'm kind of realizing? It's kind of dawning on me. This stream's probably going to be done soon. Like, there isn't actually that much I have to talk about today, because I got all the heavy stuff done. What a fucking weight off my shoulders. I don't actually need to fucking stream this for like 10 hours again. Holy shit. I'm probably literally just gonna like just ask if people have questions that I haven't already got into about any mechanics, and then like maybe I'll do like 1 or 2 like writing our own card, you know? Holy shit, I can't believe I'm actually gonna be able to fucking finish this today and be done. Oh my god. Yay. Yeah, I think I... Well, stop time was being activating stop time. Well, showstoppers can only activate at the start of a turn. And stop time, by definition, it can only be activated by a card's effect. So, you shouldn't be able to trigger a showstopper during stop time, because that's not how that would work. You wouldn't be able to have any thing that does that in stop time, you know? You can only trigger showstoppers at the start of your turn. So, you wouldn't... Yeah, so it wouldn't be like relevant is the main thing. It wouldn't like come up. The only way I could see it coming up is if like if a visitor were to be drawn, but I think specifically how it should work is that stop time resolves before anything else. So like even if a card said like when a card acts during stop time, draw an explore card, none of that would resolve until after the stop time itself is done. Yeah, so it's not going to be like a huge issue. It's not going to be like a problem, thankfully. It's already a silly enough mechanic. I'm going to switch back to... I'm trying to see here if there's anything else I would need to kind of talk about in the rulings, but I mean, they're in the rulings already. What mechanics do people... What mechanics do I need to talk about? I feel like I've already talked about all of them, right? Other than field effects, but like for good reason. I've already said why I'm not talking about field effects, because they're not done. Yeah, I think it doesn't seem like anyone has any specific questions about anything, so I think what I'll probably do is probably just go on to like a quick card making exercise with you guys, you know? And then I'll probably be done. Thank God, holy shit. Okay. I'm gonna make a couple cards here. Just cards for example's sake, not anything that I'm gonna be adding to anywhere more than likely. But we're gonna make some quick cards together as sort of, yeah, as sort of going through some examples of stuff. So I guess that the main way to do it is probably to get a card I feel like the main way that I probably should do it, and probably would be the easiest way to do it, is to get a card from a document that hasn't been made, or maybe even one that has been made already, like an already existing card, and going over it. But I think just making a card and talking about why it's balanced that way, and why it works that way, is probably it's going to be very helpful. So I think I will. I think I'm gonna do that. So hold on, let me find a... Okay. So this is a card from Slug Warriors originally. And let me quickly, hold on. Yeah, so this is a card originally from Slug Warriors. Hi Mimo, we're just going over, like, I'm doing a couple of exercises where I make some cards and talk about the process as I'm doing it for like different card types. Because I think that'll help a lot. So for example, this is a basic card that is originally from Slug Warriors. It's Uncle Ian from Alvin and the Chipmunks. So let me get him in there. Great. Right, so this card is a basic card, so obviously I don't really want it to be too good. I don't really want it to be like super game defining, so I'm gonna give it pretty low stats overall, like 3 HP, pretty good for a basic card, so it has some survivability to it. 1 damage, because it's not really... This card isn't made to do damage stuff, it's supposed to go in for the effect, you know? It's not really for the damage, that's not why you're playing this card. So this card doesn't have any statuses, it doesn't need them. Most cards shouldn't really have... Maybe not most, but like, I feel like you should err on the side of 1 status or none. You don't need to give every single card a status. I know I've been saying that a lot, but just to kind of keep that sort of in mind. So the battle cry of this card is it's playing in grey for some reason, not white. Take a basic card from the shop display for free. So, obviously if you've seen the movies, this character's gimmick is that he's, like, evil, and he wants to, like, make money off of Alvin and the Chipmunks. So obviously the design space here is, how do I get across the idea that this guy doesn't really care about, like, the little guy, you know? And that's by letting you steal basic cards, yeah? So I'm getting the idea across already. And then also, because obviously I want to kind of use more new mechanics, I want to use other keywords. This card also is going to have a showstopper. So, okay, how do I... Because we already have this battle cry, or this theme for the character to work off, how do you expand on that, you know? How do you make an effect that feels a lot fitting with this character, like fitting this, while also not being too good because it's a basic card, or too kind of, you know, you gotta make people look at the effects of a card and think, oh yeah, that makes sense. Or even if it doesn't immediately make sense, it should be like, oh, you know, you can extrapolate it by engaging with the material, you know? So this card's gonna have the showstopper. Search the 30 topmost basic cards. Draw any one you like. Now that is pretty powerful. That is a showstopper, so I think it's okay. You do have to give it your whole turn for this. Again though, same sort of idea across. He's kind of an immoral guy. He doesn't care about like the chipmunks, so you can just steal any card you want. With no consequences to it. It's just getting the idea across and making it feel right. Draw any 3 you'd like, the 3 chipmunks. That'd be too good though. The only reason, that's probably why we didn't do 3. It's like too good. It'd be pretty funny though, but yeah. That would also take too long to do, yeah. 1 in 30 is pretty good. 3 in 30 is like, oh, people are gonna be sitting there for like 20 minutes deciding on like 3 basic cards, and it's like, I guess that's another good thing to explain too. Why it's only 1. Like, it's that way because, 1, it's for balance reasons, but also you got to think about what your table is kind of willing to deal with, you know? And especially if you're writing stuff in relation to Thrillhouse Edition, we try and write stuff in a way that it's sort of, things shouldn't take too much time if it can be helped. We do our best. It doesn't always work out that way, but we try and make things streamlined when we can. Sorry, oh my god, I've been talking for like 2 hours. Need to get a drink of water. So I'm gonna show a couple other cards as well. So this one's pretty good. I'll show off a skilled card and a champion as well, and then like some other ones. Oh, I guess I could show off like maybe 2 of each, to be honest, because that's probably a good way to. But a lot of it's going to be pretty similar. Of like, oh, think about like what kind of card it is, and then think about like, what you want to get across. It's pretty much just a lot of. It's a little difficult to explain because it's sort of something that kind of, as you improve at card writing, which is something you definitely will do as you make more cards, it will become easier to you. It'll be something you understand more inherently. It's just something you have to get used to over time. So I'm gonna show off another Slug Warriors card, another basic card. So here's another example of like how I would go about writing these. So it's Tyler from Total Drama. So let me just get the picture in. So Tyler is like, he's pretty like, did someone just knock on my door? Hold on, give me like 2 seconds. Okay, hey, sorry. Okay, so Tyler, in the Total Drama series, he's like a sports kind of guy. He does stuff with sports stuff. He's pretty clumsy. So, and he ends up getting voted off, in both shows he's in, pretty like relatively early. Especially in Total Drama Island, he goes off pretty quick. So I'm gonna give this card like decent basic stats. So you do maybe want to play this one for attacking reasons. I'm gonna give him power because he kind of does sports stuff. And this one isn't gonna have any keyword effects, but it is gonna have an ability. So if an effect other than death would cause any card on your field to be discarded or deleted, always discard or delete this card in place of any other applicable cards. You will ignore the illusion of choice. Tyler must go. Now, this does have this does have joke wording at the end though, but it still gets across exactly what it means to. And the joke wording though is because it originally had that in the original stories, and I don't want to remove it because it's really funny. But essentially, it's just the same sort of thing. This is a little bit of a better basic card stat-wise. 2/3 power, pretty good. So it does have the ability it has is sort of a downside in a way, whereas because you're always going to have to discard this one. But in some other ways, it is also an upside, just because of, you know, you're always going to be discarding this card, which is just a basic card, rather than like anything that might discard like a champion on your field or like a really good skilled card you built up, you know? That's my biggest advice, and I've said this like 10, 20, 30 times. Getting the idea across is more important than anything else. As long as you get the idea of the card and the idea that you're trying to convey in the character, and you're able to kind of convey that to other people, that's the most important thing. You know, and obviously you do want to get things balanced too, and you're definitely able to do that while conveying things, just that more than anything else, you want to be able to get people to understand why the card is the way it is as quick, like basically as soon as possible. That's the main advice for writing cards. You just have to think about it, how, like, just get one idea across. You don't need to, that's another thing, you don't need to get everything about a character or idea or location across. Just the main important thing is fine, or even just like one specific thing. So I'm going to show a skilled card from Slug Warriors now, which is another one that I feel is a good example of you know, this is like this is a character, this is the idea behind this character, this is what they do. So so Vinnie Griffin. This can't be official art of this character. It's got like it's like aliased. This can't be real, can it? It's like aliased fucking lines. It's like pixel art. I mean, the outside of it is anti-alias, but like, I don't know. Doesn't matter. The main Vinny's here. So Vinnie Griffin, right? So in Family Guy, Vinnie Griffin is, you know, he shows up after Brian Griffin dies, and he takes Brian's place. Stewie gets mad at him because he misses Brian, right? So those are the main things I want to get across with this character, right? He's replacing something else, and, you know, maybe some people aren't happy with that. So I'm gonna these stats are just good for this card. 6-1, pretty good. You know, he's a survivor where Brian isn't. On, because people maybe got mad at him for replacing Brian Griffin, you know. And of the effect of this card, when a character on your field is discarded during any turn, you may immediately play this from your hand into slot that character occupied. So feels like pretty pretty sort of self-explanatory here. It's getting, you know, so card on your field just died. Okay, so you can immediately, like, especially card on your field died during someone else's turn. Someone killed one of the cards on your field. You can just immediately play out Vinnie Griffin, get Taunt on your field. That's because he's replacing someone who died. You know what I mean? It's the basic idea of the character distilled into a pretty simple effect. It's really, that's really what it's all about. You know, like, I didn't go overboard with like how the bouncing works or anything. I didn't try and put like, oh, you know, you may time travel back in time and like summon the discarded card because like Stewie goes back in time and saves Brian. You know, you don't need to do any stuff like that. You just need to, all you need to do, get the basics across. You don't need to get complex with it. Now you're able to get complex with it occasionally. Obviously, you don't have to stay in simple confines in that way, but I think the less overly specific a card is, the better. So I would say like I guess as an example, like if I were to write this card with the idea that this is going to be a card that, in my opinion, wouldn't be super well written, it would be like, okay, so if a card on your field is named Brian Griffin, and that card is killed, play this card in its place. If a card on your field is named Stewie Griffin, you may discard this card and summon a card named Brian Griffin from a discard pile. You get what I mean? Do you get what I'm going for here? It's sort of like, this is never gonna happen. It's like, it's stupid. It's too overly specific. It's never gonna happen. There's no point. It gets the idea across, but it's like, you're not gonna be able to deal with the effects of it. It doesn't have to be named cards like this. It should just be a more general idea. It's something I still see a decent amount with like custom cards and stuff, like oh, if this is adjacent to, you know, blah blah blah, like the specific card, whereas like each deck has like hundreds and hundreds of cards in them. You're never gonna get it, you know. It's like a 1 in like 600, 700, 800, you know. It's something that's not gonna happen reasonably. So you gotta keep your effects generalized. You know, like you don't want to rely too much on, each card should be able to stand completely on its own without relying on other cards. You know? That's basically, I guess I don't really need to explain it anymore, because I kind of Sometimes flavor source material can actually have a making card intuitive flavor, and others might not be. I think that, yeah, so I think that does pair well with this, again, because like if you know about Vinnie Griffin, if you know about Brian Griffin dying, you know the deal with this character, you know? So it'll make a bit more sense that this is like, the effect might make a bit more sense. He's replacing a card that dies, because that's what he does in the show. You know? Making things intuitive. That's also a good sort of method to doing that. Yeah, so I think that's pretty good. Now, yeah, and as Kay mentioned, and I will quickly open those cards up. Yeah, so these cards are sort of based on, it's based on like flight formations and how these characters sort of act in universe in regards to that stuff especially. but it doesn't rely on like those specific other cards. It doesn't rely on like Fox doesn't say like, oh, if Slippy Toad and Peppy Her are adjacent to this, it has +1 damage. Like this, it doesn't. You know, it's not overly specific because it doesn't need to be. Now I'll do this once more with a champion, and I'll probably do like a couple other card types also. Okay, so this is actually a pretty fun example because it's sort of. Hold on. Sort of a joke, but it's also like real. You know? I'm trying to figure out. Hey, what is with this image of this character? That's really weird. Hold on, sorry. Yeah, so you can definitely still get across, like, joke effects in this way, you know? This doesn't just have to be limited to completely serious effects. So, I'm gonna show off. So, for example, here's Syndrome from, you know, The Incredibles. Now, obviously in the movie, this is kind of a bad picture. I'd probably get a better one if I was actually making this card, but you know, obviously in the movie, his whole deal is that he's, you know, tech-based supervillain. He built that stuff himself. He's gonna sell his tech to ordinary people. So obviously the joke of this character is the one line he says, which is, when everyone's super, no one will be. So the closest analogy for superpowers in God Game is champion cards. So Syndrome's effect, well, he's gonna have pretty low HP and damage because he's more of a brainy type character than like one based on raw power and stuff. So he's got pretty lowish stats for a champion. He has Obviator. Because he's kind of like a sort of more underhanded type character. Now that's not the only reason you can put Obviator on cards, but it sort of fits well on those kind of characters. And he's gonna have a showstopper because he's a very kind of flashy character. He wants to make sure people knows what he's doing. And the showstopper is going to be discard all non-champion characters in play. In turn order, starting with you, summon the topmost champion cards into all open slots on all player fields. Now this is a pretty crazy showstopper, and he's a champion card, yeah. So it makes sense that he would be able to have something like that, and also it's getting across the idea of the joke, and like it's the idea of this character is that it's based on the one line that he says, which is like a pretty funny line, when everyone's super normally. So when every card in play is a champion, none of them will be, because it's not going to be special anymore. You get what I mean? It's sort of you can kind of like apply things to God Game in ways that aren't like, oh yeah, this sort of analogy kind of works here, you know? It's like, it doesn't all have to be like, you don't like, it doesn't just have to be like serious stuff. It can be like jokes too, as long as you're getting the idea across. Now I'm probably not going to show off like, oh, what goes into making like a consumable, you know, or like an attachment. Those I feel like are pretty obvious, where it's just like, oh, you know, you think of like what sort of effect like a thing does in the thing, and then it applying that. It's the same as this, you know, like so. The revive from Pokemon. What I would do for that is just make it summon. So if I were to add like the revive, it would be like, oh, summon a basic card from the discard, you know, and then the max revive could be like summon a skilled card from the discard, like the topmost one. It would be like random, I think. Actually, yeah, it's probably fine, right? But yeah, no. So it's just like, again, it's the same principle. Same with like really any type of card, you know. It's just simple. So I'm gonna open like an example environment from like the Dark Beyond. Maybe not this one. I mean, that one's pretty good, but I'm trying to find like a really good example of how to get like an idea across. Yeah, okay, so this one, I actually do think this one's like pretty perfect for just immediately sort of getting across what this is supposed to be, you know? So it's a very simple effect, it's only 2 lines. After attacking with a card, roll 1d6, gain that many coins. Now, it's Wayne Tower, which obviously is from, is like from Batman, it's Bruce Wayne's like company or whatever, his tower. Obviously the idea behind this is like, oh, I want to make a card of this area from Batman. You know, I want to make a card of Wayne Tower. So, oh, Batman's rich. You know, he owns like a lot of money. So, how about, you know, whenever a card acts, but you know, you get what I mean? Like it's just kind of trains of thought. It's pretty simple. It's really just simple. Now, if you want to get something across a little more complicated, so that's like, it doesn't have to be just simple stuff like that, you know? It can be stuff that's a bit more complicated. So like this one, this location. So I added a lot of Fortnite cards in the Dark Beyond. So, you know, I go like, oh, this card is like from a season about like heists, and specifically this location is the location of a boss character who does time travel stuff and collects items from like the past or the future with time travel. So, you know, so time travel kind of makes me think of like, oh, you know, different expansions and stuff. That's sort of something I've been playing into a bit with cards, that characters and areas that engage with time travel. It's playing with like engaging with different expansions, yeah? So cards may use an action to draw a card of the same type. So for example, a basic card would be able to draw a basic card, a skill card would be able to draw a skill card, you know, from the expansion before those, and then 4 cards from basic alpha, draw one from the most recent instead. You know, it's not like it's not like an overly simple idea to distill into a card. It's like, oh, it's, you know, it's time travel stuff. It's pretty complicated. You just need to think of like metaphors, I guess. Like what can you use in the game mechanically that is a metaphor for this thing? What can you do to evoke this? So, like, again, you know, Let me open another one. So this one's like basically another like sort of joke thing. You know, this is Latveria, which is the home of Doctor Doom in Marvel comics. So characters inflict one doom when attacking. It's it's just it's like a pretty simple joke, but it's also a good way to kind of get things across mechanically that this is like, oh, this is kind of like an oppressive, scary place. It's something that because it's doing it's a double purpose. It's a joke, but it also gets across what it's supposed to be evoking. So can someone in chat, can you guys like decide amongst yourselves very quickly on a character that I can use as an example that isn't in God Game already? Ideally something that I know about, you know? Or maybe not even something I know about, just something that you guys can describe to me in a certain way that I could maybe extrapolate stuff from. You know, and while anyone types anything up like that, I will just take another drink because my throat is really getting dry. And just like that, all media is flushed from my brain. The Terminator. I kind of really like using the Terminator as an example here, because it's not one that would normally, like, we're probably not going to add something like that to God Game normally, you know? I kind of really like that as an example here. So, you know, the Terminator, immediately in my head, this is a pretty imposing character, pretty strong, you know, pretty relentless. So immediately I'm going to be thinking like, oh, this should probably be either a skilled card or a champion card. Like, you know, you get what I mean? So I'm thinking in my head, okay, this is probably gonna be a champion card, right? Like immediately that's what's coming to mind. Yeah. I'm not gonna worry too much about the picture right now. I'm just gonna leave it like this for now, because that's not the point of this. But so, this character's pretty straightforward, you know, pretty no nonsense. He's not gonna have any. He's probably not gonna have any like overly, like any particularly big effects, if anything at all. The main thing that comes to mind mechanically that could happen here is, so they tend to send more Terminators back in time, or for, you know, like they have the quote like, "I'll be back." Yeah. So for example, I would maybe make this like a decently statted champion, not a great statted champion, but like a decent one, maybe maybe literally like 4/4. Yeah, like beatable, not like the most amazing card ever, but like beatable. And then Death Rattle. Like Death Rattle. What's the point? If heads, fully heal this card. You know? So that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. Yeah, it's not necessarily the best thing for this character, but it's like, oh, you know, that's immediately something that comes to mind. So maybe I'll work with that. Maybe I'll keep it. Maybe I'll keep sort of iterating on that. So maybe instead of a coin flip, maybe it's something like maybe it's something like, oh, like Showstopper. Maybe it has like a written effect, like, oh, this card can't be discarded other than being killed, right? So things that would discard it in any other way can't discard it. And then maybe like, well, I was actually going to say like maybe like as long as it has shield. So, and then it could have like a showstopper, for example, to like, oh, like, you know, get, like, armor itself up, right? Like, give this 1d10 shield, right? That's just another idea, you know? This isn't necessarily what I would do, because usually when I write cards, I deliberate pretty heavily, you know? I kind of take a while to come up with card effects. But, you know, it's just... You get what I mean, though? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, oh, this is like... This is the idea of the character put onto a card, you know? Like, oh, this character... And then, again, also, like, oh, this character... He's, like, constantly coming. He's relentless. He's not going to get stopped by anything. So maybe this character has, like, Fearsome. Or maybe, like, Obviator. That's not Obviator. Maybe, like, Obviator. You know? It's just... It's a good kind of way to you want to translate stuff mechanically. You know? It's really... And again, like, I know someone also mentioned, like, Piranha Plant. So, for example, if I did Piranha Plant, I would probably maybe make that a basic or a skilled card. Maybe a basic card that has something like, oh, when this is attacked, like, maybe, like, this card deals, like, +2 damage when counterattacking. You know? Because, oh, you jump on it, and it, like, hurts you. So, like, if you attack it, it's gonna hurt you more. You know what I mean? It's just I feel like I've explained it and I've explained it 10, 20 times, and I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot, but it's probably good that I'm, like, drilling it in, I think, kind of making it clear, like, oh, you know, this is how you should be, like, you should be thinking of it in terms of this, you know, in terms of how you can kind of apply things and how you can make things like work as like a mechanical metaphor for the actual workings of the character. Do you think Piranha Plant could run for the governor of California? I don't know. Like, how old do you have to be to run for the governor of California? But yeah, I think that gets everything across pretty good, you know? I think that makes... I'm hoping that makes a lot of sense to people. I know really the last good while has been sort of talking about that, and I hope that showing sort of examples has helped a bit with it. It's really just... It really is just about vibes, you know? Making things clear what you're going for. So you don't have to use all aspects of a character. So notice that this character, like, has a gun. I didn't give it ranged. You don't have to do that. Because it'd be like, you're focusing on too many elements at once, you know? I didn't add any of the, like, time travel elements, really. Like, not really. I sort of alluded to it, but not, like, a huge thing. Just because it'd be sort of it'd be focusing on too many different things. Like, I'm gonna show an example of, like, a card that I'm still just really... People might look at this and think, like, oh, this is the Mario card? You know? Like, this is all the Mario card does? I genuinely think this one is, like... It's so... intuitive, you know? This is when Mario gets a power up, he takes damage and then goes back to his like normal self. You know? It's one specific simple aspect of Mario's gameplay applied to the card. It's not like this isn't like, if I wanted to make a card based on like Mario Kart Mario, for example, I could do that, and that would maybe use like speed, and I don't know, maybe I don't know exactly what it would do because I'm not writing a fucking Mario Kart Mario card. But you know, you get what I mean, right? Like it's one specific aspect of this character. It doesn't need to be more than that. Same with one specific aspect of this character. The specific aspect of Redacted that is being evoked here is the fact that Disney is very litigious and very protective of their copyright. That's the one joke here. That's the only joke here. There's no other Mickey Mouse related like jokes here at all. You know? That's the only joke we're getting across. Because it doesn't need to be. It'd be bloating the card, you know? It'd be doing too much. You can focus in on that stuff, and it helps a lot design-wise. That if you focus on specific iterations or specific sort of time periods of certain characters, you know? So there are like 3 different champion cards that are just Sonic the Hedgehog, right? Like there's the one from base set alpha, which is just Sonic the Hedgehog. Just gets across the general idea of Sonic as a character. And this sort of has a similarity to Mario, where it's just doing the rings thing. Like when it has rings, you can't die. But there's also a couple more specialized Sonics in the Dark Beyond. So there's Sonic the Warhog, which I showed off earlier. This one obviously transforms into Sonic from Sonic Unleashed, and it works specifically as Sonic from Sonic Unleashed. So this one is based on the reason these cards work this way is because obviously this character transforms at the end of each night or at the beginning of each day, and he has a friendship with Chip, who is like the little like maroon flying guy, and in my head I'm translating that as, oh, you know, he's protective of basic cards. Yeah, you get what I mean? And then there's also Sonic the Hedgehog from Sonic the Comic, which is the British Sonic comic from the well, it started in the early 90s and it lasted till like the late 90s, early 2000s, I think. Now this iteration of Sonic is kind of more of an asshole, you know? He's kind of a prick. I still wanted to get the speed thing across, so I actually gave him Swift instead of Speed to differentiate from the regular one. And I also gave him Taunt because again, he's kind of a dick, you know? So, and he also transforms into Supersonic, because unlike in the games, Supersonic isn't really like a power-up. It's sort of a guy who comes out sometimes and tries to like kill everyone. So this one is just like, this one is something you don't actually want to have on your field too much, because it just attacks it does whatever it wants, you know? This just attacks at anything it wants. That's the thing. It's multiple different versions of the same character, so I'm getting across different ideas of the same character. That's a good way to sort of get across different things while also having, you know what I mean? The thing you're doing with Sense Limit is a really good exercise in doing that, focusing on one specific thing. Recommend trying it. Yeah, I really recommend trying it. It's such a genuinely like good way to design characters around. So I'm So in Slug Warriors, I'm adding characters from Fire Emblem Awakening. You know, but Chrom and Robin actually already have cards in base set Delta. But that's fine, because those are focused on, like, you know, pretty general aspects of those characters. I'm probably going to make versions of them in Slug Warriors too, but with a different character focus. So it's still the same idea. Well, not, you know what I mean? Like the same. It's based on the same thing, but it's using a different sort of aspect of that character. It's yeah. That's really it. Honestly, that's all I can really say. Because I've really just been repeating myself for the past like hour or so now. But yeah, I recommend trying it. I recommend trying to sort of design some cards based around like specific things and iterations. It's a good exercise in card design. And I also recommend trying to design some cards that don't use status conditions at all, like don't have any. Because I think it's sort of a crutch. You can sort of end up relying on statuses a bit too much. Which is why we've especially tried to sort of cut back a lot and make it so, you know, most cards only have one status, and then a lot of cards don't even have any. That's what we're kind of trying to do now more often than not, you know? So I think that's all for today, to be honest. I think we're done. I don't think there's anything else we really need to talk about. Does anyone have any questions? I'm just taking a drink. I'll give you all like a minute to type anything out if you have any, but if not, I guess I'm done. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with what I went over. I feel like there's some stuff that I maybe could have gone into a bit more detail on, but at the same time, a lot of it really is just up to your own judgment at the end of the day. Like, here's the mechanic. You know, figure out how to... It's sort of just by experience that you figure out how to make things not like too overpowered or too underpowered. It really is just sort of something you learn, and that's the most important thing. Even if the cards you're making, like, I don't expect everyone to start immediately making like cards on the level of the Thrill House ones just from watching these streams, because it's not that easy. People have been making cards for like submission for Sox's streams and my streams through our viewer expansions for a long time, and I've been seeing people improving in card writing over time. And especially after Thrill House Edition came out, there's been a lot of improvement in card writing. Like, I know especially, I don't know if people would get mad at me for bringing up like specific... No, I guess if I'm talking about how much they've improved, then probably not, right? But I was going to say, like, specifically even of the people in my chat, like Jack Narrick's like older Lancer cards, for example, tended to be pretty complicated, and I had to kind of fit a good amount of stuff into the text boxes. But a lot of the newer cards, and especially the later Lancer cards, have really sort of figured out what makes them work and what makes them fun, and how to kind of distill the ideas in really interesting ways that I really like. You know, like, it's something you just improve at over time. Same with Mimo. I'm sure Mimo would totally agree, and like Bomber in my chat, and Pyro. You know, all my mods would probably agree. All the older cards they wrote, are like totally eclipsed by the newer stuff they've been writing because of they've been, you know, honing their skills by writing more cards over time. You're going to full work with them all right now, as a matter of fact. Yeah, and I'm like super excited for that. I'm really excited for that because those cards are like I always liked seeing those cards being submitted, and I'm especially happy that, you know, the improvements over time. You've gotten a lot better. Pretty much everyone has gotten way better at writing cards over time. And it's just really something you have to practice, you know? Even if you don't get it right away, there's people who are willing to, like, answer your questions, you know? Like, I'm typically available. I mean, don't just, like, at me out of nowhere or anything for questions, but, like, you know, you're more than welcome to, like, post design questions in my chats. In like the God Game chat, and I'll probably, what I might honestly do is no, I'm not gonna do that. Never mind. I was gonna say I'll reflavor the dump to being like, oh, card design chat, but the regular God Game chat can just be that. Like, it doesn't just have that. We don't need like a separate chat for that. It's stupid. First time chat. I have a question. What advice do you have on designing campaign cards? So I don't know how much I'm the best person to ask about that because I've never actually run a campaign. But I have played in one, so I may be able to offer some insight based on that. You want to design campaign cards with the idea that they're sort of engaging to the player. I'm assuming you mean stuff like campaign bosses and treasures and such, and environments for campaigns. You want to sort of design things in a way that's like enticing for players, you know, and you want to design things in a way that, in my opinion, you should be able to like sort of, certain treasures should be able to like, you shouldn't write them with the idea that they should be comboed in mind, but you should. I think a lot of treasures benefit from the fact that they can combo with other ones. I think that's a fun way to design treasures, like making them sort of pretty applicable in most circumstances, but not like overly centralizing on their own. So I think an example of one that I think was maybe a bit overly centralizing is in Sox's campaign, they'd had the treasure, I believe it was called like Hucket Shell or something similar, where they could discard cards from their hand to deal 1 damage to things. That one just ended up being the crux of their entire strategy, you know? It didn't really leave much room for any other interesting forms of play, because that was just the best way to proceed in every encounter, basically. You know? You want to sort of balance things around, like, oh, it's good, but it's not going to be like the main thing that happens, you know? Bosses, you want to sort of account for that, and account for the fact that they might have treasures, and make them kind of, I don't know what the word would be. Don't make it so they would get invalidated by any treasure. Like, you don't want to write bosses so that they completely ignore treasures, because that's not very fun. But you kind of want to strike a balance where they're not completely invalidated by any treasures either, like completely destroying their gimmick, you know? And for environments, those really are just based on like, oh, those mostly affect the encounters, I believe, and what you can draw. So you just, the environments for campaign cards can really just kind of be anything. Because those really are just based on like affecting your draws, and affecting your encounters, and affecting like anything, any certain bonus spaces, you know? Working on campaign character cards. I don't really have much advice on that. You should probably just... Campaign character cards should probably just be like normal character cards, really. You know, they should just kind of work like any regular character card. Because that's how the player builds their deck around regular cards. I can't really say, like I said, I can't really say too much about campaign because I've never run one myself. And I was only in one. And obviously this stream also it is for Thrill House Edition and not campaign mode, but that's alright. Like I don't mind answering the question at all. Yeah, I think that's basically everything I can say about that. And it doesn't seem like there are any other questions. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm done. Holy shit, I'm done. Thank fucking God, man. 3 streams of this. And about like 15 hours total. Talking about fucking God game design. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I'm going to be live tomorrow because Will and I are going to be finishing up Danganronpa 1. That's going to be our final stream, Danganronpa. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for that. And then on Sunday, obviously we're going to be watching Phineas and Ferb, as usual, in my server. And Monday we'll be back with Magmal. And then for next week, like on other days, I might try and do Cassette Beasts on Tuesday or Wednesday. And then Friday, I don't really have any specific plans for next week, but I might try and like get someone on for God Game or something. I know I've been talking to Mimo about playing, so maybe I'll play with Mimo next week if we're both available. And then obviously next Saturday, we're not going to have Danganronpa, so I don't actually know what I'm going to do. Maybe Will and I will finally stream Bread and Fred, because we've been wanting to do that for a while. Maybe we will, I don't know. But we'll see, I guess. And I'll let you guys know. You can grab our cut too. I do want to do that soon. That's not going to be on my channel, that's on your channel. We're gonna have to figure out when we're gonna do that. But yeah, that's not on my channel. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much done for the night. I don't know if Socks is live tonight, and I think Will might be live tonight. I think Will is live with is Will live with Scooby-Doo tonight? I think it might be Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights. And I'm definitely gonna be watching that shit. So you guys should go follow Will and watch that stream tonight. And I'm gonna see if anyone I would want to raid is live before I end off. I'm sorry if you don't have one. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't really... I don't think like anyone is live right now, so I guess I'm just gonna... Well, we're just gonna direct to whoever... Okay. So let's... Hold on, okay, can you set up that raid? Because my OBS is being weird. Can you set up raids, or am I the only one who can? Oh, okay. Hold on. Did it go through? Is it starting the raid? Did I type the username right? Okay. It's not working. Wait a minute, this is so weird. Because if you remember, I couldn't ban that person before either. You have a solution? I was just going to open up Twitch on my laptop and raid from there. There we go. I don't really have anything specific to say. Just go say hi. I don't like know this person very well, but I know Kay does, so you know, go say hi on Kay's behalf. And I'll be doing that too. But yeah, like I said, I'll be live tomorrow, and I'll be live next week too, as usual. Thank you guys for attending these streams. I'm happy that people have found them helpful, and I will try and get the VODs up on YouTube in the next couple days. Because I'm a little bit behind on my VODs right now, but yeah, I will see you guys when I see you, and I'll see you guys in Will's chat tonight, hopefully. So take care, everybody. Goodbye.